tiny bit about my background. I was with Connexions for 4 years doing open education resources and open textbooks. And from there, I got a fellowship with the Shuttleworth Foundation that supports fellows in all kinds of open processes that care about social change. And my fellowship is about making it easier to remix open content. So, I want to do just a brief bit of history. Last year I was here, not here physically, it was in Vancouver, talking about the vision behind this project. And the vision is that you can get content from anywhere in any format, so that's everything in, and you can get it out onto any device, any platform, paper, whatever is the right mode for learning, that's where you can get it, so that's everything out, and then everywhere shared among lots of different projects. And I showed something, you're not going to be able to see exactly what this is because I'm just doing a rehash, but this was the everything in part. We have a tool called remixed, remix.oerpub.org, where you can take Word documents, get a common format out. You can take Wikipedia articles, get a common format out. You can take Google Docs, get a common format out. And you can take various websites, blogs, etc., get a common format out. So that's the everything in part, and that's what we showed last year. Also, last year we did a whole lot of work. My team was here for the whole week, and some of you may have helped us test mock-ups and designs for the tool I'm going to show this year. And this is all about an authoring tool to make it easy for people to actually create content that's easy to remix, create textbooks in particular. And so this is, lots of people tested with us, and this is our group analyzing some of the results right away, and then there was a lot of analysis that happened after that. The slides are all available on SlideShare, so I have some kind of small stuff that you're not intended to read now. There's some blog entries about that if you want to see the follow-up from last year's work. And thank you very much for helping us. Okay, so this year I am showing off a full realization of the work from last year. So this is a textbook editor that works in your browser. Books are immediately available. It's using actually a coding site called GitHub to store the books and edit the books. You've got a couple of different things going on. You've got the ability to have multiple books so that you can pull content from multiple books. There's a table of contents for your current book. You can drag and drop to order your stuff the way you want it. And then the editor, this is the thing that we were testing last year. So this is as much like Google Docs and Word as possible. It's a canvas. You write what you want to write. But they're cool structured features for dragging in exercises, definitions, things that are really important for learning content. Okay, so and a couple more things that are important about this. The everything out aspect of this. So you start out writing your content, maybe pulling in content from different places. Here you are editing the content. This happens to be an OpenStax College Anatomy and Physiology textbook. It's immediately available on the web, and that's using GitHub, this place where the books are stored. You get an immediate web preview of your book, and because the format that it's stored in is EPUB, you also can download that as an EPUB to use on different devices. There are a couple little caveats. I did say this is alpha. You have to unpack one folder in order to make that work, but we're really close to that. Just a week ago, we did a sprint after Books and Browsers and integrated another Shuttleworth Fellows project called Hypothesis, which is an annotation service that works on anything on the web. And because this is on the web, immediately as you save your content, you can annotate this content in your book. So learners can annotate, they can write notes for themselves, or teachers can annotate, or during the content creation process, you can be doing review and feedback. So that's pretty nifty. And then finally, and this is even more alpha than the rest of the stuff, but this is a PDF service that is watching those changes. So as you make a change, it's rebuilding the book and creating a PDF for you. So this is the same content in PDF format. You just click a button and go go get the updated book in Azure Write. Pretty nifty. The reason it's alpha is it just, you know, PDFs are complicated, so there's things that still need to be cleaned up in there, but pretty neat idea. In August, we took this editor to South Africa and worked with teachers at the independent schools in South Africa and with the project Siyavula. Mark Corner is in the back of the room, and they have a parallel talk with me. So after this talk, please watch Megan's slides. It'll be really interesting to see their work also. And why I have all these pictures, we had a physics team, a chemistry team of teachers. Here are the teachers actually sitting and working, you know, on their laptops, using the editor and the browser. And this was our very first trot out of the product. So this is our development team that's also there at the same time, making sure to fix bugs as we find them. What they had were a source of books that were all in this editor, several from Siyavula, which have country-aligned textbooks in physics and chemistry and math, and they're expanding into many different areas, and OpenStack's physics textbook. This is a college-level textbook, so they had all this as source to create their custom textbook. And then they used the editor to pull content in. There were a couple of features that we put into the editor to make this process work really well. It's very easy to drag and drop content from one book into your book, and it makes a copy of that. Eventually, you'll also be able to just link between documents so that if you're making a teacher's manual and a student textbook, you can do that all at once, and you can use some of the same content. So that was one method. And then another method is that for the structural features, like if you like a worked example that's in one of the other textbooks and you want to include that, or an activity, or a definition, you have an easy copy and paste. So you copy there, you switch over to your textbook, and paste that in. So those are the ways that the teachers were interacting with content, as well as creating their own stuff and copying in content from their own documents. So this is an example of their initial version of Momentum and Impulse for the physics textbook. And this is showing it in the editor. This is showing the online version of that content, and we had several books, so it's showing all the different books. So that's online. Again, showing with the GitHub. And then the PDF preview of that. And you can see, like here, we've got an image that's a little bit out of whack, so those are the things we're working on. Now I'm going to back up just a tiny bit. And my backup is, like, why do we care about having this open textbook authoring tool that creates content in this clean format that you can get on the web in an EPUB? One of the reasons why this would be super, super cool is that I could take everything, my courses, my Sailor courses I'm taking, my OpenStack's college courses I'm taking, my Siyavula stuff, my stuff from high school. I could have access to all of that everywhere I am. And that would be really, really interesting. In particular, I can have access to it in different ways. Okay, that's just showing all the devices. I'm speeding up here. This is the great transmogrifier. And so think about this. What if I could take all of that material and I could automatically have flashcards that would be all of my stuff? Maybe it would only ask me my old stuff every once in a while. Maybe I would say, hey, I hated that class. I never want to know that again. Don't give me any more flashcards on that. But the stuff I'm currently learning, I could have this presented to me for all my material. And the same for exercises. I could pull out the practice problems from all of my open content and have that presented to me in different services. How would we do that? Well, with this structure and this content, it's very easy to find all the definitions to pull out for flashcards. We don't have something for the future. I could look for all of the notes that the student is taking on the text and actually key the things that they're getting off of where they're taking notes in the content. And this is showing an example of an exercise and how you pull that out. Again, that's very easy to pull out from the content based on the structure. What makes it all possible? Common format. We took DocBook and ConnexML from Connexions and created a web version of that, very simple version called textbook HTML. That's what gives you the ability to recognize these structures. That editor has to be super easy to use or nobody's going to use it. That's why we did all that testing last year. It's got to be easy to extend. This is open source. We want developers to be able to make something easy out of that. And we want those books to be easy to find. Connexions, Siyavula, Sailor, and just your own personal things sitting up on GitHub. Okay, one quick caveat, but also very interesting research by a user experience master's student that worked with us on the project, and you saw him last year if you came and tested with this. This is Adrian Garcia. We wanted to know what will motivate teachers to use this. And he had 3 presentations, one that emphasized the ability to create content that's accessible for learners with different disabilities, print disabilities, visual disabilities, hearing disabilities, etc. One that concentrated on that idea of getting all your content out on flashcards and exercises, etc. And one that concentrated on the ability to get it on all your devices, to share everywhere, part of this. And the interesting thing that came out of this is that educators actually didn't care that much about the whole flashcard, exercises, interactive content thing because they already get that from the kind of package deals that they get. So that's really important. It's kind of a caveat to what I'm excited about, but it speaks to that teachers want us to solve something that they need in their classroom right now, and what they have is a diverse set of learners, and that part is really hard. I was surprised how many of the teachers in that whole sample had that experience and basically said, yeah, I've got to teach to a bunch of kids and I might have an aid, I might not have an aid. Being able to adapt content would be really important in that frame. That idea about it being easy to extend this editor, this open source editor, at the Siyavula and IEB school teachers sprint that we did in South Africa, they wanted a different exercise type. They wanted to be able to do a multi-part exercise where you have a description of the problem, maybe an image, and you have multiple parts, multiple questions that refer to that same problem. So we built that while we were there in a day and started using that. So pretty nifty ability to adapt. And some more adaptations. This is the same basic editor embedded in the remix tool that we showed last year, although the editor that was in there didn't have all of the sophistication and the semantics. This is Connexions. Connexions is also using the same editor. It's a little bit of an old shot of their version of the same editor. This is another adaptation that we got just from somebody finding the code on GitHub. So DH Writer is a tool for submitting abstracts, and they liked the semantic nature of the editor. They embedded it, didn't talk to us. We got a bug fix back from them. It was like, whoa, who are you? What did you do? And that's them. And they continue to just keep, every time, we're still very actively developing. I have a developer here, Tom, who you can talk with later in the week. And anyway, they're adapting everything as we do it, which is nifty. You guys can try this out. Right now, the book editor only works in Chrome. Pretty minor problems with Firefox. We will get that back working very soon. Editor.oerpub.org. You do need some significant bandwidth, so I don't know that you're going to be able to try it until you get it. Because it's pulling all of that book content from GitHub. It's pulling the editor code. There's a lot of stuff going on. We are going to be working on performance and things going forward. Developers. And again, all the links are available on the SlideShare talk, so you can come back and get this, but it's very, very easy. Tom created a one-line vagrant script so that if you're a developer and you want to get started, it's really, really easy. So some of the things, I need to leave you guys some time for questions, but this is my slide about, you know, like what I want from you guys. I want you to test drive this. I want you to give us feedback. If you want to extend the editor, please come talk with us. We are here to help people figure out how to extend it, how to embed it in different things. Want to organize a content sprint. Talk to us. You can tweet me at K.E. Fletcher. You can look at OERPUB.org. And funders, they're in here, or you know, providers of various types. Help us extend this. Help us keep this free and open and vibrant. And developers, get it. You know, definitely come and look at this. And one more thing, I'm only here today, so come find me, please. If you need to find us tomorrow and Friday, Tom is here, and I've given you a picture of him. He's a key developer. He can do demos of all of this stuff. You can talk about project ideas, get developers set up. Any more questions after today? Okay. Go ahead.
Are you inventing this wheel, or are there other wheels out there? Are you on the bleeding edge here?
Sort of, we're on the bleeding edge, but you know that slide I said about like all the things that are making this possible. Really, honestly, you know, I'm touting this as part of open education and the ability to share remixed textbooks. But when you think about it from the point of view of efficiently writing textbooks, I actually think every textbook should be written this way. Publish your textbooks, everything. You want to write it in a single source, and then you want it to be available in PDF, EPUB, HTML immediately from that. You don't want to be constantly paying somebody to create it. We're a little bit on the bleeding edge, yes, but I do think everybody's going to come to this conclusion. O'Reilly Media is doing almost exactly the same thing with their Atlas system. They've also come to the same idea that their books ought to be in HTML to start with, they ought to be producing all the formats at once. They ought to have some simple, lightweight way to get the whole thing to happen just in your browser. So I do think the world's kind of moving toward this.
Yeah. Actually, we're doing the same. I'm in a project in Latin America, and one of the things that we found that is actually this is a bleeding edge because, yeah, there is a lot of editors to create content, but to organize it in a book and to do it collaboratively with other people, there are none. Yeah, you have very good book editors that are used at professional level, but no, not free, and not towards open and collaborative creation. My question or my proposal is I have a bunch of very talented developers there, and we're trying to work on this. That is one of the goals of the project, to develop a platform, and I think it would be nice to talk.
Yeah, definitely talk about this right after.
So, I mean, I'm from Siyavula, just to make a comment on the bleeding edge nature or lack thereof. So there's two things that are really special about this for us, and we just want to write books, so we're pragmatic. So we need equations. We write maths and science textbooks. So nobody does equations properly, nobody. Even if you have professional publishers produce your books, and if you want to produce an EPUB, no one knows what to do with the equations. So this is the one solution where probably as much thought went into designing the equation editor and how to handle the equations as went into everything else. So that makes it really special for math and science, and that's absolutely unique. And then things like these multi-part equations, that environment. We write school textbooks. The learner's book has to have the one-line answer at the back, and the teacher's guide has to have the full solution. And managing all of that is messy. So we write one book, and because it's properly semantically marked up, we automatically produce the one-line answers at the back from these multi-part solutions because we know what the correct one-line answer is because it's marked up. And then we make sure that, and we from the same source produce the teacher's guide with the full solution. And there's just nothing else that lets us do that. Everybody else is cutting and pasting and then updating things in multiple places. You don't want to do that. This is much more efficient. And so I would argue on an open source, freely available perspective, there's nothing else that lets us do that.
So I wonder, I think I got that impression that you are focused on letting the teachers to use this editor, whereas, you know, in the keynote speech we heard some perspective on letting users or learners to create content. Have you thought about that possibility for this kind of editor?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing stopping anybody from using it. The idea was to target common users, not people with professional design experience, and learners could use this absolutely. One of the things, you know, I showed that thing we did a couple weeks ago with annotation, comments and stuff. We want to integrate that directly into the editor too, and there's an ability to have the comments that are in the web view of it and the comments that are in your edited view streamed together so that you could get learner comments, you could get teacher comments. There are lots of different ways that people can collaborate. And on the collaborative part, the editor does allow more than one person to work on the book. If you rearrange stuff in the table of contents, you're going to get an immediate update of that. If I update this chapter, my colleagues will see that immediately. 1 minute. What we don't have now, but is actually very reasonable to extend the editor to do, is that two of us can't be in this same document at the very same time. We've got some prototypes along that line if people are interested. So I think we can definitely move this to being a very collaborative environment. And you could have students in there creating stuff, teachers creating.
And where will all of these wonderful books and remix books end up?
So that's
how
a
will we
really
find
good
them?
question. So right now, like if you just go and open the editor up and do that, your books are going to end up on this software site called GitHub. They're totally open. People can find them. Connections is using this same format, and we will get an import-export so that you can just take the content that you created here and move it into Connections and vice versa. Who cares? So, the idea is the more people adopt this common format, the more places there will be to distribute books. You also can take that and send it to any of the print-on-demand or EPUB, create space, things like that. You can get there too.
Where you've got this kind of HTML tagging where we can search the things. In adopting and adapting and remixing, what I seem to be looking for a lot of times is any type of truly articulated specific learning outcome. In other words, when I'm starting, I teach statistics, so when I'm going through, it's that idea that we're not tagging this stuff by learning outcomes. And so you get in and you realize, I don't need density functions, I only need this piece. And so is there a place in this type of a format or in this type of the model where you can add, even though we all don't have the same outcomes, there's still some fundamental building blocks that we're all teaching towards?
Yeah, that's a really great point. Now, I'm using this slide to show something similar. So I think what you're talking about is metadata, and we want to be able to do that in a really simple way, and we want to be able to do it in a granular way. So I want to be able to take, say this, and the example I'm going to show now, which is the one thing we have implemented, is for images we have some nice sourcing. And as much as we can automate that, we will start doing that. There's another Shuttleworth fellow who's working on being able to grab attribution properly out of other stuff, and then we could do all this automatically for you. You could just approve it and say, yeah, that's the way I want to cite this work. You can think of the same thing for if you have an activity. We can do nice, simple metadata there that also help for searching and discovery. That's also important for accessibility. That we are, if you put alt tags on all of your images and describe them properly, or give alternates, like, hey, if you can't see, here's a better source for you, that stuff should be embedded in the document too, so that somebody looking for content, they're going to bring up that content as being really great for learners with various disabilities.